All right, we are back on the FloTrack podcast. I am Kevin Sully, joined by Lincoln Strike, fresh off a very restful vacation in his home state of Missouri. Welcome back, Lincoln.
Thanks for having me. I know you guys have been speculating about where I've been. It's been a little bit of a mystery, but yes, I was in Missouri, Springfield, and Kansas City. Decent time, booked a rental car, the smallest one possible, as is natural of me, someone who's very cheap, but also just, I don't know, that's what I usually do. And they upgraded us to a Jeep, which was a fun thing.
Oh, wow.
In these trying times, you really appreciate the small things, so I got that, and yeah, now I am back and ready for, well, we leave in less than 24 hours for NCAA Indoors. As of now, that's the case. With this coronavirus, obviously everything is in flux at all times, but I feel good and ready to go to Albuquerque if that goes ahead and goes as planned.
Yeah, obviously sports are not on the forefront of people's mind, although if you've been paying attention to the sporting world, a lot of events have been canceled.
Yeah.
Some major marathons have been postponed. Collegiately, some schools are sending students home, but we haven't heard anything yet about D1 specific for this meet. We saw, before we started recording, we saw a tweet about a smaller school not going to their indoor championships.
Yeah, Wisconsin Lacrosse, Division III school, they obviously have their championship scheduled to go in Winston-Salem this weekend. Wisconsin Lacrosse, their classes, I think, have been suspended, if I'm not mistaken, and so they made the hard decision to not send any athletes there. So will that start a trend? I mean, I don't think so in the sense of D1's championships are in 2 days, and so I don't think people are going to stop sending, but it's going to be fascinating to talk with the coaches. It is, I want to be delicate here. I don't want to say it's fascinating how quickly this has moved, but it is obviously scary how fast this has moved, because we were at the Olympic trials for the marathon 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And as, in the talking with other members of the media, some people were hesitant to ask about the coronavirus. It seemed a little silly at that point. I mean, I asked Sarah Hall, are you thinking about it at all? And she said, no, not really. I know SI's Chris Chavez was asking about it, and I think there was some people that were like, why are we asking about this at this juncture? Now it's like it is topic A1 of any conversation you have almost with anyone. Twitter that's all that's on Twitter. Every podcast in any level is talking about this and talking about the outbreak, and so it's just moving so quickly that now it's even at the NCAA Indoor Championships that are going ahead as planned, the Division I event. That's what's going to be discussed. I assume there will be some media regulations. I don't know. We've seen in other media environments that media has been asked to stand back further than they usually would, or they're not allowed in the locker rooms right now. I'm curious to see how NCAAs will go, because as it is, usually very close to the athletes. I mean, that's any event in track and field.
Sure.
So will that be changed at all? I'll be curious to know. A lot of unknowns still.
If this was the week of Olympic marathon trials, I think there would have been questions about spectators, because a lot of marathons, like the Tokyo Marathon, canceled the mass race. Not that the Olympic trials was a mass race, but I think part of that was also the fact that you cut down on spectators, right? These huge gatherings. Here in Austin, they canceled South by Southwest. In California, they canceled Coachella. Obviously, those are much larger, but if you think about a marathon crowd, it's a huge pack of people in a small, relatively small space. So I think there would have been a lot of discussion of that. At that point, the United States at least wasn't to that juncture in terms of how they were connecting with and preparing for the virus. So that never got discussed. It was more like, hey, in the future, this far-flung thing, if the Olympics got canceled, and part of that, we were asking that because the Olympics are in Tokyo, right? I think if the Olympics were in Los Angeles, fewer people would have asked, which, rightly or wrongly, I mean, I think right now, you listen to any health expert, it's going to spread around the globe.
Right.
There's teams already there in Albuquerque for D1. So that doesn't mean they still can't do something, and that doesn't mean teams still can't pull out, but this is just uncharted territory for a lot of these teams. You prepare your team all year to compete at this one meet, and you don't expect something like this to crop up. But it will be interesting. With the NBA, they're talking about different contingencies they can have. Are they going to play with no crowds? Are they going to play in different stadiums and neutral sites? I think if one team or one city, kind of moves, there could be a ripple effect, and I wonder if that's what we're going to start to see on the collegiate side of things.
That has been the case. You've seen some. Obviously, it started internationally with events in Italy and obviously China canceling, and it was, like I said, it's just how quickly this has moved. It was unthinkable. There was no discussion about
canceling
the Olympic trial.
Yeah.
There was no, and even 2 weeks on now, 2+ weeks on, or whatever we're at. It would seem like that would have been they still would have gone ahead with it, but like you said, limiting the crowd size, I think would have been a much bigger discussion now, especially as it's trickled out that, the testing has been insufficient, and we're only now starting to get the full measure of, who has it and who doesn't, and the unreported nature, I feel myself being encouraged by the fact that we're going to New Mexico and there's no reported cases yet. But that's more to do, I assume, with the testing infrastructure, not necessarily. We all know that the numbers are way out of whack with what's accurate with people reporting it and being tested. So it's curious to see how this is being handled, because like we were talking about, well, if it's in a higher, if it's in New York or California, it's like, well, we need to consider to move it, when the reality is probably numbers are probably high everywhere.
In big cities especially, you could move this stuff to some rural county, but that if the whole point is to let spectators still attend NBA games or March Madness or track meets, the idea is you're putting it in a populated area so that way people can go to it. But there's just going to be massive ripple effects here too. Like, think of all the people it's going to impact. You putting the health scare, obviously, which is the most important thing, aside for a moment, and focusing on the real reality that there's still a question about the Olympics. There's still a question about whether that's going to go on. And as an athlete, I'm sure they're just charging full speed ahead. But I did see that an official with Tokyo said, it's up in the air. And then he walked that back, I think, under some pressure. Probably.
Got a few emails.
His inbox runneth over at that point. But I think for indoors, this is why I think track kind of flies under the radar all the time. And maybe it's if you think this meet should go on, I think you're a fan of the fact that track flies under the radar and it's not a huge spectator sport, because if it was, then I think there'd be a lot of calls to shut it down or postpone it, right? Or say, hey, let's just wait like 2 more weeks.
Yeah, and I'm just a little, I guess, discouraged, and it's not necessarily a good look for the NCAA when you have schools like Wisconsin
unilaterally pulling out
athletes when NCAA, they're saying, I know in their media stuff they had attachments and did the kind of the boilerplate, wash your hands, and we're monitoring with the CDC and whatnot. But when you do have schools doing this on their own and taking it into their own hands, it's a little frightening when the NCAA hasn't made any statements of this is what we're doing and this is why we're going ahead with everything. And obviously, the NCAA's bigger focus is going to be the March Madness, and you wonder what will happen with that. That you assume that's going to go ahead, considering Selection Sunday is this upcoming Sunday, and it's almost
fill your bracket, Lincoln.
Feel too late to cancel, but. It's just there's no clear message here. It's like South by Southwest is canceled, but the Final Four isn't. There's going to be a lot more people at that than there would be at. I know South by Southwest is going to bring people over the span of whatever it is, 2 weeks, but 2 weekends, but. There's no consistency, which is so concerning.
There's no clarity about what's going on and that goes back, I think, to the testing.
Yeah.
Right? The not having an accurate testing number is leaving people the ability to fill in the blank with however they see it. So if you don't think it's a big deal, it's the number is the number. And then if you do think it's a big deal, you're looking at a country like Italy, and you're saying, okay, this could get a whole heck of a lot worse. And just so people understand, a lot of this isn't so you yourself doesn't get it and get infected and have serious health problems. It's so you don't then pass it on to somebody who has an immune system that's vulnerable. So it's just about moving the disease, spreading it wider out. Think about just think about the people we've come in contact with in the last month, just in our 2 trips you're 3 trips because you did that reporting trip to Missouri.
Hundreds of people.
Hundreds, some thousands. factor that in exponentially, right? There wasn't any social distancing at USA Indoors. There wasn't any social distancing at the marathon trials at all, right? We were right up in it. So
Yeah.
the idea that we're like a week or two away from it really, like everybody's seen that curve, right? You've seen that curve where it's like if you spread it out over a longer period of time, it stays under the threshold for which hospitals can deal with it. Or you have the situation where it's over quickly because everybody gets it like at the same time and it overruns hospitals. And I think everybody just wants to err on the side of caution at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into political stuff, but it comes down to where our leadership is, because that's what everyone's looking above themselves.
Stick to sports,
I'm looking above. My son is 3 or 4. Sorry, he has no idea what's going on, which is nice for him. But he's going to be deferring to me about it, and we all look up, and ultimately it comes down to
you defer to me as the guy.
Doesn't seem like. Italy has had a worse outbreak so far, but that doesn't mean we all expect it's going to get that bad here. Yeah. There's no clear plan when everyone looks above themselves, and that's kind of why you have people taking it into their own hands. We saw that with how testing developed in the United States. So it's scary in that regard that there's no clear-cut thing. And then for me and you personally, I mean, we both, obviously everyone typically has parents and has a lot of people have families, but we both have young kids. My wife's pregnant, so it's definitely going to dictate my decision-making going forward. And so you want everyone to take that level of things seriously, because it isn't just, is Lincoln going to get sick? I don't want to assume this, but I have a strong feeling, being a healthy adult, that I would be fine. But, my grandma's 85. We all have people in our lives that are at huge risks for this. I saw someone in outside the Dallas area, and their whole, their family got it, plus a 3-year-old. Yeah. I mean, that's where it's like, I'm not going to be coming to work, if that starts happening, where people around me, kids start getting it. So back to sports, to me, I'll just be of the opinion it seems a little foolish to be having this NCAA Championships this weekend. But obviously I'm going to go ahead and go, and it is in my brain, and it may be a galaxy brain situation. It's like, oh, it's encouraging. New Mexico hasn't had this huge outbreak. I mean, it could just be a reporting thing. That could, but we have no idea. The numbers are so artificial at this point.
When you want to keep it that way, you want to keep it so New Mexico doesn't have. If the number really is 0, the way you keep it is not by putting a whole bunch of people from all over the country in there. I just wonder if everybody was kind of. Well, I don't wonder. Everybody was slow in the United States to pick up on this.
Yes.
And I wonder if everybody had the information a month ago that we did now. If a level of caution was taken then. Because, I mean, South by Southwest got canceled last week, right? And it starts this week.
Yeah.
That's not much lead time. And this has been around since the end of December.
I mean, that has 10x, if not 100x. Financial impact than what NCAA really. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, who actually, other than the NCAA, maybe, but they probably lose money off of NCAA Indoors, I would assume. I mean, I don't actually know that. Maybe the TV, but who actually loses money off NCAA Indoors being canceled? It's maybe some coaches' bonuses, but I mean, there's not anywhere even in the same ballpark of the financial impact. So this just seems but then you get a little reckless to me.
We get something bigger, though. You get something like the trials, right? Then it's, when you're asking those questions, it becomes exponentially bigger, because that's more in line with.
But I mean, imagine,
music festivals.
People are taking risk here. I mean, imagine an outbreak happens at the trials and they just go ahead, because it's like it's unimaginable to cancel that. Imagine if there's an outbreak there. And then you're talking about a new stadium. So I mean, that's a nice look for New Hayward Field, that a breakout of the coronavirus happened. We're talking. This is moving so quickly. In 3 months' time, I'm probably gonna look back on this and be like, you guys had no idea what you were talking about, in the sense, like, of course, the USOC is gonna cancel this if that's the concern. But right now it's just in a stage where everyone's kind of fending for themselves, and that's a scary thing. Yeah. And there's no clear cut like. Well, the NBA is taking preventative measures and preventing things. NCAA, though, they're just going for it. We can't be stopped. And it's just like, this is ridiculous.
Even the NBA, though, this is kind of slow, right? And LeBron had the statement, well, I'm not going to play at empty crowds, and everybody defers to LeBron. And then he comes back and says, well, no, actually I will. And then Adam Silver comes out and says, we might move teams to different arenas, which seems like it would exacerbate it, not make it better. And playing neutral site games. So if there's been no outbreak in Topeka, Kansas, then you fly the Lakers and the Warriors out there to play in Topeka, Kansas.
I mean, you're acting like this is something, though, that grows in the ground. I mean, that's not how this works, though, as we all know. I mean, I get that might be a PR move, but, like, flying everybody to Topeka, Kansas, I mean, if you
Well, here's what the NBA could do. Here's what the NBA could do. And I know this is not an NBA podcast, but here's what and this is difficult to translate over to track and field because there's no similar situation. But NBA could pull out data and say, how often, Lincoln, do the playoff seedings change from March, whatever, to the end of the season? Okay, it's happened 1% of the time. All right, we're freezing everything. Yeah. The season is now over. Everybody is going to stay where they're at for the next month or whatever, and then we'll be able to have playoffs.
Yes.
And then hopefully by then it'll have passed. Now, if it hasn't passed, then I guess that sucks. But they're going to lose a bunch of money. But I think that's going to happen either way. But they could say, hey, let's just game 75, especially of teams that are not in the playoffs at all. I don't know why they would be so concerned.
Yeah, man, if you told Daryl Morey 6 months ago that his China thing would not be the biggest thing coming from China to affect the NBA.
That's true. I saw Southwest lost $500 million. So
Southwest?
Mm-hmm. All the airlines obviously are getting crushed in this. So we're flying Southwest tomorrow. So probably won't have any drinks available, I'm guessing. But anyway, we'll be in Albuquerque. Let's get to sports. Huh? 17 minutes off the top on Lincoln's. What else? Did anything catch your eye when you were out there on your reporting trip / vacation in Missouri and you were listening to the podcast maybe, you were visiting running websites, maybe FloTrack, and there's something you want to get off your chest?
Oh, wow. Anything catch my eye?
Because people like your takes.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair question. You know, Missouri, not exactly the track and field hotbed.
That's why you were there for a reporting trip.
Yeah,
because reporters go where other people aren't. Yeah. Remember, if you're where everybody else is a reporter, you're in the wrong spot.
That's
what
a
I've
good
learned.
point.
That's why I've been able to report such amazing stories throughout the years.
Yeah. You know, I might have to take a rain check on that.
You don't know? Okay. Yeah. Well, we have a workout with Weini Kelati up on the site, which was from one of our previous trips. So people could check that out.
That's true. Yeah.
7-mile tempo.
Yeah, we followed her. I followed her on the...
You want to do a little behind... I know you like behind the scenes on workout Wednesdays.
Behind the scenes content. Yeah.
Do you want to give us a little behind the scenes for that workout?
So how that came together is we were in Albuquerque for the U.S. Indoor Championships. You kind of came into with the mind of we got to find Joe Franklin when we get there and talk to him and see if we can get a Weini Kelati workout. That all came together. Met him. He said it was cool. He said, "Oh, it's going to be cold, by the way, so prepare for that." She was running out at a large national park or whatever park, and it's called the Nature Center or something.
They started the Nature Center. Yeah. It's called the Bosque.
Yeah, the Bosque.
It's all along the river.
Yes, beautiful.
Bike path.
It was cold.
Very cold.
Very cold. We needed bikes to do it, so we rented bikes. Mm-hmm. She started at around 8:30. The bike shop opened at 8, so we had to book it there. We found out through renting the bike and me doing this that I was a little more proficient on the bike than you. However, I went a little too aggressively on the way there. It was about a 3-mile ride. We got there. She was still warming up. She was taking her time. Not somebody who was going to start right at 8:30. She was still warming up, getting her music figured out, which you can see on the workout. Anyways, we get there, and I have just booked it there. All of a sudden, I'm feeling very altitude sick, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Luckily, her and the volunteer coach there, like we said, taking a while to figure out her music with the Bluetooth. Didn't end up working, but once they got started, I felt better. We did it, followed her on the bike. First 3.5 miles went well, but at the turnaround, she made a loop that she turned around and I just wasn't ready for it. We weren't communicating the whole time while I was filming her, and I almost crashed into her on the bike, which you can see on the workout, which would have been...
would have been bad.
Would have been bad.
Might have had to cancel NCAA Indoor for that. Lincoln would have been canceled?
Yeah, it would have definitely been gotten canceled for that. The rest of it went smooth, I think. You know, you did some editing, which is outside of, you know, your comfort zone. We've been doing some more editing, but yours turned out well. I think it looks pretty solid. The views there were outstanding. The workout was great. People talking to coaches that know what it's like to try to do long interval workouts out there. Running in the 5:20s for a 7-mile tempo is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so we learned Kelati's obviously very fit, and we knew that from cross country. But fascinating that she took 3 full weeks off.
Yep.
Coming off of her 5,000 at BU, and it was only her second tempo of the year, and she was, she ran 7 miles at about 5:30 average pace, maybe a little bit under that even. So she looks obviously very, very fit. It was a fun time. It just was the chaos of trying to get that to come together was eye-opening, because we're not usually filming the workouts, but now that's kind of things we're doing, and a lot of work for that. It makes you feel it's a rewarding experience to make that come together.
Yeah, I had a rougher time than you. I paced myself more on the way out, so before the workout started, I was able to stand upright while you were sitting down.
Yeah.
Did you throw? You didn't throw up.
I didn't throw up. I thought I was about to, to throw up.
But then once the workout started, I was just totally gassed, because I had the bright idea of riding ahead and then hopping off and getting shots with a separate camera, which theoretically should work, but she's really fast, and it was just, I don't know.
It was hard.
Like my legs turned into jello, like real quick. Partly on the altitude, partly because I'm out of shape. I didn't even run that morning, so I don't know. We ran the day before. I don't know. It was demoralizing. Like, hop off, I run by for 2 seconds. It takes me forever to get the camera back in the right spot. Then I look up while I'm hopping on my bike, and you guys look like you're 200 yards ahead.
She was going quick.
And I'm just like, geez. So then I'm just like pedaling super duper hard. I'm like, go hard for 10 seconds, and you go catch part of the way up. And then I go hard for 10 seconds, and I felt like I was just as far behind. And on the way back, I finally was able to stick with you guys, but that was because I was just sticking with you guys. I wasn't going ahead. Basically, what I'm saying is I let you down on this shoot.
No, it's okay. You
poured your heart and soul into it. Yeah. I'm more of an organizer and a producer. The interview was interesting, though. The 3 weeks completely off, and then she said, it takes me about 2 weeks to get back into shape.
She proved that as much. I mean, that workout, I assume she can do even better than that. Obviously, when I bet the last couple of weeks of tempos have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
This one was, I would say, pretty ridiculous at 5,000 feet. And she's just ripping off miles that...
She never seems to get hurt, right? Yeah. She's in the mix in every single championship. When you and I were watching, we talked about it after. Our light kind of failed us here if you're watching right now. That backlight turned green. Why does it turn from white light to green?
It's a great question.
Ridiculous. I like how just half of my face is in shadow. Yeah. That's wonderful. Let me move this way. There we go. I'm going to sit right here now.
Just freeze.
Hey, Lincoln. So you and I were talking afterwards, not that she's not awesome at the 5 and the 10 and the 3, but I think the marathon's in her future, just the way she clipped that off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, she looked smooth and seemed to get stronger as it went along. And, because she was the only one running, obviously we know that Weini Kelati's the best in New Mexico, so she would, if there would have been her teammates with her, she would have been well ahead. But you didn't get a good sense of how difficult that was because of how easy she made it seem. And I have to think that is because she's going to be fantastic at longer distances.
Yeah. Also, for those of you who listen, who are also runners, which is probably most of you, as Lincoln said, we booked it to get there at 8:30.
Yeah, we got there like 8:30.
Right, because the bike shop opened at 8. We hopped on the bikes, rode there, got there at 8:32. She was still jogging, and then she did a fair bit of strides and skips and other exercises to get herself ready to roll. But then she spent a good amount of time trying to sync this Bluetooth, and eventually they just gave up. And then it's not like she then went back and like warmed up for 5 more minutes. It's like, Bluetooth's not working. Went to the line, started.
Yeah.
So everybody out there who's really, really particular and really gets in your own head about, I need to do 6 strides, and they need to be 3 minutes before the race.
Yeah.
I need to do 4 butt kicks, 3 side runs, 2 things of karaoke, touch my toes twice, and then go. Weini Kelati's like, I didn't sync. Let's try again.
Yeah.
All right, screw it. Let's rip off a 7-mile tempo run.
Absolutely. Very adaptable. Yeah, and her coach ended up falling back on not falling, but going back on the bike. So she didn't have the music. She just had the company of me trying not to hit her with the bike.
And you like this.
Just like a millimeter away.
No social distancing there either. Yeah, and then it was just crazy how quickly she recovered. Like she finished and chatted for like a minute or 2 with her coach, and then it's like, can we do an interview? Sure, yeah.
Well within herself for sure. Yeah. So, we see a lot of track workouts, but and the tempos are less common because usually they're taking place on either busy roads. But this was cool to see for sure. So a little bit unique of a workout, and if you haven't already, check it out on the FloTrack.com.
There's also 17 NAU workouts on there as well. Some ones from cross country, but they had never been seen before. So we have what do we have?
Release.
Pull those up real quick just so we can tell folks about them. The Moto City long run is up, and then the one I watched yesterday was the sunrise workout with Bosley and Beamish. So that's the morning of a race, and then there's also the long run there. So NAU,
the
man,
deep cuts from the NAU series.
Well, they're still relevant, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Gordon and I talked a lot about that yesterday.
Yes. I think
you
we
probably didn't listen to the pod because you were we were talking with the source yesterday.
I disagree. Right?
Yeah. Is that right?
Yes. I can't reveal my sources, of course. I disagree with him that LSU their title chances are as flimsy. I mean, you can say everyone everything has to go right for this team. I don't think that's necessarily the case with them. I think they're going to be solid. The two guys that they have in Gray and Harrison are proven, and maybe they didn't jump as well at SECs, but I think those guys will have a way to figure it out, and Laird seems solid. I know that's the crux of their team, those three guys, but I believe in them. And with NAU, of course they have a shot. The distance thing happens, less. It rarely obviously works out, and they just don't have anybody obviously on the level of King Ches where you're like, well, I know he's getting us 18 to 22, so that we can count 22. On those.
He gets buckets.
He's not. They don't have an 18 and 10 guy every night necessarily. It's just depends on how good of races, how quality Tyler Day is, how quality Grijalva is, and they could be anywhere from. In their races, they could be second to not scoring. So it's just you hope that for them they're hoping for the best, and I just believe more in LSU. I know Gordon has even been knocked down a peg on what he believes in with NAU.
Not a believer,
but if they truly are aggressive, I think that's their best chance, and obviously they have a shot in a year where no team is a powerhouse. So
I think it'll be funny if the winning score is in the 30s.
Yeah.
Like 37.
I mean, that's where you should not cancel the meet because of coronavirus, but probably cancel the team. That's not a... You have to have a minimum score, otherwise they're just like, we're not going to give out. Let's play this game. What has to happen for every team to win, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously the number of 15 has been big for NAU, right? In the 5,000. Yeah. They're going to need to try to get what did Gordon say? 15, 10, 10, right? Okay. Well, that gets you to... That's going to be tough in the mile.
35. Yeah, 15, 10, 15. He said something. But you also need LSU
to be knocked down a peg.
To knock down a peg. So you need the Tennessee kid to jump well and beat Harrison and Gray.
The 200 to not go Laird's way, probably. And
you're a big fan of Micaiah Harris, Matthew Bowling.
But not too big a fan of Texas because they could also be in there and be in the mix.
Yeah. Meanwhile, what does LSU need? They obviously need a big long jump. They need Javon Harrison to be the Javon Harrison from outdoors. Last year. Outdoors when he did that crazy double. Yeah. They need, some help from Kurgat and Klecker, which isn't hard to get. And then you need solid performance from Laird. Right? Yeah. I mean, you don't need 10 from him, but you need something good.
But unless something goes considerably wrong, the 200, sorry about that, folks, the 200 is very top-heavy, where it's just Laird and Harris who have broken 20.6, and they've run in the 20.4s. So it feels like you're either going to get 10 or 8. Yeah. So it doesn't always work out that way. Athletes have breakout races. Yeah. But LSU looks pretty solid right now.
So Texas, the third-ranked team on the men's side, big race from Jones, which is doable. Big throws from Paperi, which is doable. Mm-hmm. And then a big performance from Micaiah Harris. Yep. And that gets you to 30 right there.
Yeah. It's crazy how big the loss. I mean, we knew it, but how especially big this year the loss of Sam Worley is. I mean, he's been out for a month now, but still, that's they would be right in the thick of it if they had a miler, So, but they could still do it. I just have confidence in LSU.
Women's side. So we've seen USC go down a little bit. What needs to happen for them to win?
Big scores in the 60 hurdles, the 400, and the flat 60.
I focus on the 400. I think 400 is super key because you bring back Constantine and Roberts, but then you also have number 1 seed in Bailey Lear in there as well too. And then if they run well in that, then that means their 4x4 is set up for success.
They're going to win the 4x4. I don't know how they don't win the 4x4.
Crazy stuff happens. We saw it last year. I mean, they were the favorite last year.
Who's the number 1 seed right now? It's like Alabama.
Alabama's the number 1 seed with 329. There's a ton of teams right around that same spot. But I focus more on that than the hurdles because I just think I feel like Tania Marshall is going to run well, and I think if they just get Cockrell and Mecca McGlaston into the final, and score somewhere in the top 6, I think they're fine. I think the 400 is really going to be where they need to separate.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, I think for the women they need to have USC trip up a little bit. And then they just need big points in the jumps. And they need Tyra Giddens to have like an amazing meet because, as we talked about yesterday, she's entered in the heptathlon.
Oh, she's doing that.
2 other events.
You mean the pentathlon, but basically you can call it the heptathlon.
That's what I'm
she's
calling
doing
it. Remember
events.
when we coined the Grantathlon or the Holathon?
Grantathlon.
Yeah. Or Pentagrant. There were a lot of cool names last year.
This is what she's
Look,
doing.
when you got to come up with a million ways to write about Grant Holloway, you get creative.
I missed last year, man. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't. There was no coronavirus in Grant Holloway. I'll take that any day.
He was around. Yeah. So she's going to be doing 7 events, 3 events, but 7 events. So you need her just to be Holloway-ish, basically. That's what you need.
Definitely, you need her to be definitely possible. I mean, well, she's going to be exhausted, obviously, but as you guys I think mentioned yesterday, everyone in the pentathlon's exhausted. So, but
one day, man. It's a lot of events in one day.
It's
a lot
5
of events. Yeah, 5 of them in one. I mean, that's tough. And then there's a big drop off on the projection from there to LSU with 31 points. So they need chaos above them, but I don't know, man. Thelma Davies runs well, really good high jumper. Tania Marshall, right? Like I could see them get to the mid 30s. It's just maybe even scratching a little higher than that. But you need multiple things to go wrong for.
It also wouldn't be surprising if it's a USC blowout still, even without an Ellis and Brissett. So
yeah, they just have fewer bodies than I mean before. It was up. Like you could 200 they may not score.
Possible,
with Lene Tava Thomas, she's the only one in there. You know, Twanisha Terry could score in the 60, but also, I mean, crazy stuff could happen there.
She'll show up. Yeah, she'll show up.
She always does, but I mean, there could be a fall. Like you could have
of course.
You could have a situation where they don't score in the 60 or the 200.
Of course.
And it only takes one thing going crazy as opposed to multiple things going crazy. And then, of course, you got the 60 hurdles, the 400, and the 4x4. Like they're concentrated in very few events.
Absolutely.
So they need to cash in when they can. And then you got Arkansas at 28. They'd obviously need Izzo to be huge, the DMR.
Yeah.
Villon maybe gets 8 in the mile behind Dani Jones because that's possible.
Yeah, don't even race Dani Jones. Just race for second.
Yeah, just do what the men did in Doha. Let Timothy Chariot run wild and free and say, hey, I'll catch up with you later.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if they had Werner, they'd have a puncher's chance here. But they don't.
No, they would definitely have a puncher's chance. I think they would be definitely second would be if they had. I mean, we can debate about this all day. That would be their
run their win streak to 4.
Yeah. I mean, I think.
What a run they've been on though.
Yeah, they really have. They got a good shot at the podium though.
Okay, any other teams' paths intrigue you here, or what they need to have happen?
No, I mean I'll be watching to see how many points. Obviously, Colorado comes up with what Dani Jones is doing, and I assume she's not running the DMR. But my God, if they tried to do that, I don't see. This just doesn't. With like the mood in the. This sounds weird, but like everything's so somber right now with the coronavirus going on. It doesn't seem like anybody's going to be up for like I'm going to try to do something ridiculous to win a team title because people are trying to win. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I don't know. This is not even for these athletes. This is the biggest focus right now. It's just because so much chaos is going around the world.
You don't think they're dialed in?
Well, like I was thinking, like Dani Jones, like what would be the incentive of them like tripling her? That's just like
to run the DMR.
Yeah, that's just like doesn't seem like especially with if the Olympic trials goes ahead and that's obviously her biggest focus. Like
I put that separate though from the coronavirus.
Yeah, I do too. I just don't think teams are. This is just the stakes feel so much lower just because of everything that's going on. Maybe that's just me personally, but any team that's gonna right now go for, I don't know, try to go insane and triple athletes, distance athletes, or do anything, that just doesn't seem like that's gonna happen to me.
We forgot to mention at the top when we're talking about Jamaican athletes aren't going to be at Penn Relays this year either. And that broke yesterday. And I know Kenya, they're talking about official team functions not traveling much as well, too. I don't think that applies to individual athletes.
World Juniors is supposed to be in Kenya. I know Africa, as of yet, has not been hit by the coronavirus, at least very minimally. But, I mean, just travel in general just seems like this is going to be everything.
Big ones I'm looking for: London and Boston marathons.
Yeah.
That'll be...
I mean, we didn't say the New York City half. I mean, that was supposed to be this weekend, so I understand. And New York's been hit particularly hard, but I mean,
state of emergency.
I imagine both those are going to be canceled.
Yeah.
I just or at least
Spectators.
Dramatically, reduced.
Just Kipchoge and Bekele.
Yeah.
Because
we at least need that.
we need that.
Times.
Yeah, we need something to keep us going. This is supposed to be sports is supposed to be the distraction, and they take away the sports. Makes it tough, Lincoln.
Yeah, I know.
So you're writing the men's preview.
Yes.
Any nuggets you want to share with us from this men's preview? I want to give people, this is a behind-the-scenes episode. You get to know what Lincoln does every day when he's not on deep background doing reporting trips. And can you reveal the city you're at in Missouri at least so people can guess what you're
No, that would give too much away. I think I've already said it, but...
Does it have to do with Mahomes? A little bit?
No.
Uncovering a secret track past?
Yeah, there you go. That would be worth me going there for that.
Men's preview.
Yes.
I'm writing the women's preview, which I'm still working on, so I want Lincoln to have some shine. Well, you have a lot more words. You have a lot of words on here.
Yeah, looking at the men's 60.
I like when you write in when the races are.
Yeah,
people are like, man, when's that men's 60 final?
I'll
log on to FloTrack. Oh, okay. The prelims at 5:50 p.m.
Yeah. And then the finals. People need to know. People need to know. Okay, so I look at the men's 60 and the 400. These are events that are very unpredictable because everyone seems so even. I know you guys talked about this last time, but for basically, if you want my 2 cents, I'm picking a KWO for the men's 60.
Are you doing picks in here?
No. Okay. But I mean, you can kind of read the tea leaves and understand. And then Jonathan Jones in the 400. Okay. Everybody's kind of beaten everybody. It's really interesting this year. But you also have to factor in, like, people don't race, like, people will be in different heats, and it looks like they've beaten, and then you look in, and it's like, oh, they didn't actually race each other.
Yo, 2-heat final.
But yes, and the 200 is interesting because Laird has the top mark, but when Harris and Laird matched up at the Don Kirby, now they were in separate heats, but Harris ran 20:53 and Laird ran 20.7. So on the track and in the facility that they're going to run this weekend, Harris was a lot better, 20:53 to 20.7.
Not the same heat, though. And you know what they say about the indoor 200?
It shouldn't be an event. I get that.
Nothing going on. I have no idea what to say about the indoor 200.
400 is interesting. I think Ross, the freshman from North Carolina A&T, is going to be a huge factor. He's been totally impressive. But I'm going Jones. That's the safe pick there.
So you're going Texas?
Yeah. I stand for Texas.
That's 20 right there.
I know, right? I mean,
who'd you pick in the shot?
I'm not.
You haven't delved into that yet?
Dived in yet to the shot put. Okay. I'm just starting my men's 800. I apparently have my men's 3K stuff going. You know, I like to know, like you said, I like to know when things are. So the men's 800 prelims, 7.
You should just read the schedule to people.
Yeah, I think they like it. My first sentence, if people want a preview of the men's 800, it should say something about the lack of depth in this event, that Devin Dixon remains the favorite despite owning just the 7th best time. So that's kind of my angle with the men's 8.
So let me just edit this for you a little bit. Instead of it should say something, how about you just put it says something about the men's.
I know.
Get rid of the shoulds. Yeah.
It should say something, but I
thought about you're the one who's allowed to say it.
Okay.
It says something, and now you're saying it. Yeah. It says we should get a picture-in-picture of Lincoln's Google Doc, and we can just run through this together. Oh yeah, look how strong that is. Boom, just with some punch. It says something about the lack of depth in this event, that Devin Dixon remains the favorite, despite owning just the 7th best seed time.
Wow. That changes the game.
Kind of ran out of steam towards the end there. And
it's a lot of words. That's my typical.
But that's true. That's a true sentiment. You may not like the sentence as being perfect, but that...
Well, I heard you and Gordon talking about, like, he acted like it was some crazy, or that it was super vanilla, that you were still picking Dixon. Like, and I agree that he's the favorite, but by no means, you can't just be like, Devin Dixon's the favorite here because of all his experience. No, his regular season, if he's a pitcher, he's coming in with a 4-5 record and a 4.2 ERA. It's like he's had some moments. He won SECs.
Well, he's Kershaw in the World Series too, right? Like it's not like he has a track record.
No, I mean he was second last year.
Outdoors.
He had a weird race outdoors, and I think by talent alone he got second. But he's got
indoors. The race was weirder, right?
Very weird. I mean, he was like out, and then all of a sudden he got a mushroom or something. Ran into a mushroom like in Mario Kart.
Oh, I didn't get that reference. I only know it's sports references.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so that's your first sentence for the men's 800 preview.
Yeah, I got a lot. Throwing
men's mile. You're skipping.
Haven't got to it yet.
Okay.
The men's mile, I am rolling with Oliver Hoare.
Okay.
But that's
interesting.
Yeah, and then I'm Klecker for 3K, 5K. I'm.
Are there any Italian athletes that are going to factor in? Because they probably have a lot on their mind.
Are there any Italian athletes in this?
Yeah, in the NCAA and the men's.
Is this a trick question? Is there supposed to be?
I don't know. I'm thinking of story angles. Like I think that'd be interesting to see, because their family is probably in a lot of peril. I'm just thinking with the country being locked down.
Yeah,
it's pretty nuts. Okay, 3K.
I have the who's. I have
a lot of names there.
A lot of names. I'm going with Klecker there. I think.
How much of your preview is about the team race?
None. I mean, but I got a video. I got a video feature that's going to be coming out. I think tomorrow. That's about feature?
Is this what you were doing in Missouri?
Not a video. It's just a voiceover piece of content.
Which athletes are from Missouri in this meet?
The Missouri natives. Is anybody here from Missouri? Quincy Hall is from Missouri.
There we go.
There you go.
But that was not the subject of your reporting trip.
No.
Okay, just want to be clear.
No.
And then you didn't even put it. So you're not going to write about the 5K either. So the mile.
No, I will. I just haven't.
The relays are out too.
I was going to write short things about the relays. I'm going to be running out of steam by the 4x4s and DMRs.
You'll be writing in the airport tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yeah.
With your feet up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good preview so far.
Yeah,
I like where you're going with that.
We've edited it. It's coming together really nice.
I mean, I think that one tweak of it shoulds.
You haven't read the rest of my copy.
No, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
It sounds good. I know you're all in on the men's 3,000. That's your favorite race of the meet.
Yeah, I know. It's used to being like an afterthought event because there's already been the 5K and the mile, so it's kind of like, well, most of these guys we've seen.
Well, don't you think that'll happen again?
I don't think so because I think this is bringing together everybody. Like Nagoose is running in this. This is his first indoor individual event ever. Tier, this is his first indoor. He's run other individual events, but he's running the DMR on Friday. Beamish is a miler, obviously Grijalva Day and Klecker and Kurg are coming back from the 5,000. So do you get the feel, though, that like whoever wins the 5,000 kind of has an edge in this? Because I know you're still a believer in Kurgat, so let's say he wins the 5,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I'm going to pick Klecker, but that's going to be the prevailing sentiment. He's going to win the 5,000. Everybody's going to say, man, he looked really good in the 5,000.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be tired. Obviously, he'll be
everybody will be tired.
Yeah, but I like Klecker coming back. Klecker acquitted himself well last year with that double. I like him more over the final laps there. But I'm rolling with Kurgat in the 5,000. I think you and Gordon are both insane. I don't even know who Gordon picked. I just remember who you picked, and I'm lumping you guys together. But
I mean, I've done this enough.
We're forgetting about Edwin Kurgat, and I don't stand for this Edwin Kurgat erasure that's going on right now.
Just this blasphemy against Kurgat. I mean, the guy was a former field hockey player.
According to your reporting. Yeah. That's actually true.
Yes. And went to the school where Brother Calm McConnell,
St. Patrick's, right?
Yeah, which had nothing to do with anything, but that did get into my story for kicks and grins. Yeah, the cross country champion should be given a little respect. It's just hard to win cross country.
No, I'm giving him respect 3K. Because of what he did in Boston in November.
As Gordon said, couldn't pull off the triple at Big 12.
Who cares? And who cares if he was behind Klecker at Melrose? That's just such a weird race. It's not going to be run like that. I think I'll be fine. Also, 5,000 better for him than a 3,000. I feel good about that. I feel good about Klecker in the 3. I think I'm going to get every pick correct.
That's always correct.
Notre Dame's going to win the DMR. Mile, I'm still up in the air. I don't know about the mile.
I'm just taking the safe pick. And
800 will be Dixon's Revenge. 400, still up in the air. 200, I like Micaiah Harris. And then 60, I actually like Ekfewo to win it. I just think that field is so open.
And weak. It's pretty weak.
We don't know.
Wells, I mean, he ran 6:55, but there was some conspiracy online that he actually false started.
Some conspiracy online?
Yeah, people like, people, I think we posted the clip and everyone was like, that's a false start.
Oh, wow.
So
Did you include that?
It'll be a clip in the
a repeat of this electric start. Wait, so you're saying
it was electric? I mean, no, I'm not going to say. Let's hold on. Sorry, I'm getting on Twitter. And, oops, sorry, I'm not meaning.
You're on Cubs Twitter right now.
Sorry, so. Michigan State.
Michigan State
transitioning to online classes through April 20th because of the coronavirus.
Okay, but Emmanuel Wells goes to Washington State. So what are we doing?
No,
here?
I know. I got distracted here.
Okay.
Hold on.
But University of Dayton.
Yeah, they had like a riot or something.
Okay.
Did we?
Was it related to anything?
Did we? Hold on. Let's just see. I'm just looking for this.
I just want to. Not great.
Yeah, there's an audio deficit here, obviously.
No, it's fine. People enjoy your clicking. You're literally on FloTrack's Twitter, just scrolling back.
Here we go. Here we go.
Okay.
So watch this.
Let's see how electric this is. Well, you can't. I gotta be able to hear the gun.
There's an audio deficit. You see that start? Is this the first time you're seeing?
Hold on. Let me look. Okay. It's hard to hear the gun. Is that? Okay. Okay, that just screwed it up completely. Come on. All right, we're watching this again. I mean, oh, there's a little twitch, but
yeah.
I don't think we're. No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's real. He was fast last year.
He was fast last year. I would say the issue with him, he's run 6:55. This is Emmanuel Wells. He has not broken 6:60 otherwise, though. So he ran that.
Yeah.
And so not consistent.
Okay.
was consistent. I think that's why you pick him in the 60.
Wells is really good, though. Wells is really good.
Yeah.
And in a race like that, who knows? I'm going to be working on the women's preview in a little bit here, too. Do you have any tips for me? Anything I should be looking at on the women's
Well,
side?
Dani Jones is somebody you should watch in the mile.
Yeah.
Nia Akins should
Double.
be watched in the 800. The 5K, look for some people named Kelati and Izzo.
Okay.
No, I think your stuff is a lot clearer. The 3K is another interesting event on the women's side, like it is the men's.
It's almost better than the men's.
Would actually stick with Whitney Orton there, but I think it's just.
Yeah, I
think it's a lot more predictable.
It's going to be fun.
Should be fun.
It's going to be fun, aside from all the other stuff that's going on.
Yes.
In the world. We got an email. Let me get out my phone here because I got my emails on my phone.
That's good. I can check my emails while
No, you're not. I'm not checking my email. I'm checking the FloTrackPodcast at gmail.com email, which everybody should write in. We didn't mention that, I don't think, at the top. Also, you can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher.
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera. We got one from Ian.
Oh, thanks, Ian.
He said he appreciates the content as a daily listener, and he said to keep it going. But he wants another prop bet pod like we did for the Trials Marathon. And he says, he thinks it's good for a chill Friday pod on location. So maybe we'll do that Friday.
Prop bets?
Before the meet.
We got to come up with the real prop bets.
Yeah, apparently. So Ian, if you like that, and look, I like Lincoln. We travel together all the time. Our kids are friends.
Yeah.
His kid went to my kid's birthday.
Yeah.
Lincoln has a lot of strengths. Coming up with prop bets was not one of them. I was listening to that in my car and I almost had to pull over. They were so bad. So we'll come up with actual prop bets. Lincoln was just saying things. And
that would happen.
Will it happen? And a lot of the times it was like, will they mention the Alpha Flies? I don't know, man. They had a whole discussion on it. Craig Masback in his Nike polo talking about it. Yeah. So we'll have actual prop bets. He has a couple here. Let's start with these. Can we do a couple of these?
Yeah.
Just the tees?
Yeah, with a credit to Ian.
Ian, yeah. Shout out to Ian here. This is awesome. What event will have the first DQ? See, that's a prop bet.
That's a prop bet?
Because it's not like, will a DQ happen?
Yeah, well, obviously I will go with the men's 60. Men are seemingly much more prone to false starting. That's just the eye test. Than women in the 60, obviously the easiest one to false start. So I'll go the men's 60.
I'll go women's 60 hurdles.
Oof.
Yeah.
Okay.
No real reason. Will the announcers find a way to talk about the Alpha Flies at a track meet with college kids? Now, that's a yes or no, but it's a funny one at least. It's not like yours, which was like, coronavirus, yay or nay?
You buy it or sell it?
Yeah.
Do I think they'll talk about the alpha flies? I actually don't. However, watching the Big 12.
I will.
Yeah. Edwin Kurgat was wearing next percents, and so
Yeah.
do some distance runners wear next percents?
I think this is a conference meet. We're trying to get through to the next round
Okay.
without hurting ourselves.
Yeah.
Type of deal. If there was a 10,000, well, yeah. If there was a 10,000, yes, and they were doubling. I mean, if you're going to see him, I guess you'd see him in the 5K, but I mean, that was a flat track too.
Right.
So different scenario.
Probably won't. So I'll go with the no of that yes/no prop bet.
Yeah. No, it's a good yes/no prop bet. No, you got to do things like, well, with a marathon, we've been like, who's the first person who's going to be in the lead at a mile? Stuff like that. Or I'll do some over-unders too. I'm intrigued by the over-under Dani Jones margin of victory of 1.5 seconds.
Over. That's an
Gordon
easy
took the
over.
under because he thinks she's going to wait, and then just outkick people at the last.
You don't want to be when you're so much better though. There's a point where you're so much better that you don't want to make it to where like a weird. It's indoors too. If it was outdoors 1500, okay, but indoors you think you're just going to save it and you're going to be no. It's
Her
gonna
best time is 5 seconds better than the next best.
Just
time.
run 4:30 and destroy every. Well, I guess it's at altitude, so maybe not. But
no, run 4:30.
Yeah.
I want to see it. Run 4:30. Dan.
I'm not saying it needs to be tactical because it's still hard to.
Yeah.
Everything's harder at altitude for a distance runner, but she should try to run somewhat honest. I mean, it's like, we want to save myself for the 800, and the 800 is just like, that's just a bonus, Like
what's the historical comp to Dani Jones winning that 800?
The historical...
Based on what she's done her entire career, not just doubling in this meet, but the fact
who is
that
someone that's done something similar to
just
this?
something as ridiculous. Like, she would have an 800 title, as you guys mentioned before, a mile title, a DMR title, a 3,000 title, a 5,000 title on the outdoor track, and a cross-country title.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned she'd have everything except a 1,500, a 10K, and a steeple. Right?
Yeah. The closest thing I can think of it in the modern era would be Cheserek, but he's not close to that. I mean, he never ran the 800, obviously. And
Yeah.
he only ran 2 races outdoors.
But he went from the mile to the 10,
He
right?
went in the mile and the DMR.
And he went all the way up to 10, right?
And he won cross country 3 times. And so, but 800 is just uncharted territory. It feels like no distance star that's good at cross country. I don't know about ever. Didn't have time to look back. I'm trying to think who was really good in the 800 back in the day that was also good at cross country. That's hard to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to happen as much in the men's side because obviously cross country is 10,000 meters. But is there anyone doubting that Dani Jones would be good at the 10,000? No, she would be fantastic
I think
at
she
it.
should do it outdoors.
Just do the 15. Do the Hassan. She's the Hassan.
That's the person I was going to come up with.
Yeah.
Of just like somebody who has stupid range and is able to pull it off across multiple.
No, it's fun. Hassan could
incongruous
legitimately if she wanted to and if there was room on the calendar, she could legitimately win the 800 and the 10,000.
Well, in this meet, if Dani Jones could run everything from 8 to 5K, would she win them all?
Yes, absolutely.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, yes. Especially at an altitude, she's
I think 5K she might have a little trouble.
She ran 15:17.
That is fast.
Yeah.
Right? Well, Izzo ran 15:13.
I understand that, but she was in. You also have to remember that Dani Jones ran that in the Jenny Simpson race, so she didn't necessarily have as many people right with her. That pack that ran in the 15 team. I mean,
fair.
Yeah. So.
Okay. No, I think it's to do this too. She'd have to beat Nia Akins, who quietly is one of the most. I'm putting together a very impressive career. Right.
Could make the Olympic team this
right.
year. I mean,
doesn't have doesn't jump off the page, right? In terms of she's won 1 million NCAA titles.
Because
right?
last year was a breakout year, and she's also from Penn, so we really don't see her before.
Second indoors, and then outdoors.
Second outdoors.
Outdoors as well.
And then made the outdoor USA final.
Final, and then runs the second fastest time. A lot of seconds. Mm-hmm. This is the weekend she gets it first.
It's a narrative, they would say, Kevin. That's a
I got to go write my preview.
Yeah,
now.
No, it's just,
see, I didn't even connect that until I talked it out.
It's coming. It's just
see, when you're
you're
a storyteller like I am, you're always just looking for ways.
You're trying to catch them.
Yeah, I don't It'd be one thing if Dani Jones was going to win this race against a depleted women's 800-meter field.
Yeah,
it's another thing to do it against someone who's run too flat.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think you're looking for a top 3 finish in the 800 and winning the mile. That would be a good weekend for her. So
yeah,
but
the fact that she's even doing it, I think, is cool. I want to know.
But why is she doing this and not the 3K? That's what I don't.
Let's ask.
Yeah.
When we're there.
Because then that's an easy. You could do the mile, and that's less races, And so my thing is, I'm wondering
fewer races.
Edit you there for a second. I'm wondering if she's going to try to do the DMR too. I just feel like that could be coming. Now I know that's going to contradict myself because I'm basically have this harebrained idea that the coronavirus is making people not care about the outcome of NCAA indoors.
Yeah, that's a weird take and a wrong take. Because you don't know if there's going to be an outdoor one, so you want to go all in for the indoor one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be so she's going to run the 800 prelim, or the mile prelim, the 800 prelim, and then a hard mile, and then come back the next day and run.
But what's the point of running the 800 when it's not a strength of yours? I mean, her best shot to win 2 events would be to run the mile and the DMR. Or, excuse me, the mile and the 3K. Why are we running the 800?
To work on weaknesses, to get yourself ready for outdoors. You get the title, and then you in the mile, and then the 800 is gravy. And it's weird to think of an NCAA championship as a step to something else.
Yeah.
But I think she's at that point in her career where she can look at it like that, especially with indoors where you have not a lot of break before outdoors. In fact, you probably just sort of more of a launching pad. So it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these distance runners they cut back maybe a little bit. But I mean, I've never really dug deep in like finding out like what the training is like, or like the periodization is like. But I would guess a lot of these distance runners aren't like at full bore in these things. Like I know like Morgan McDonald, for example, last year, right? Took time off after cross. What did he run? He ran Milrose. Got Big 10. He had to get the 5K qualifier Big 10s, and then didn't they run? He probably ran a DMR to qualify Wisconsin's DMR.
Yeah. He led off for them.
Right. He ran 3 or 4 times, like total. Yeah. And then went to outdoors and ran sparingly outdoors. Got it.
Varies.
Yeah. He jogged that one to Brian Clay to get the qualifier. Big 10s, he ran really easy in the 10,000, and that was it.
And then the qualifiers, obviously for NCAA's. But
yeah. Well, I mean, didn't he get his qualifier at Brian Clay?
I meant the prelim rounds.
Yeah. I mean, he might have run some other random short meets or a mile here or there or something like that to sharpen up. But point being, it wasn't like all in.
No, of course not.
For indoors and let's get as sharp as possible. It's like you're just kind of fine tuning, building off the fitness.
When you're about to sign a contract, you don't want to be injured before you sign that contract.
That's what
you want to be, especially for Dani Jones. I mean, if the Olympics goes ahead as scheduled, she's in line to have a pretty substantial contract for track and field things, and so being fit, obviously, around the Olympic trials is going to be key for her.
It's important to be fit.
Yeah. Right, we just quietly reading emails now. What are we on?
No, I'm looking at seeing if we got any other emails. We still got 3 minutes.
Okay.
No, just kidding. We can leave it there. So we'll do other prop bets when we get to Albuquerque.
On the ground.
If you guys are curious, tomorrow the episode's going to come out a little later just because we're going to be flying, and then we'll record once we get settled before the press conference. Tomorrow, I don't know if you heard this idea, we're going to draft some questions in the podcast that we're going to ask later for the coaches.
Oh.
So basically we're going to like troubleshoot. Yeah, we're going to workshop with each other the questions and then write them down and then go to the press conference, ask the coaches.
Makes sense.
Might try to find a guest, who knows, when we're there. Maybe on Friday or Saturday's pod, you might hear somebody.
Yeah. Good chance it's Joe Franklin, who I'd love to hear but talk about the coronavirus. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, you just want to do like a separate coronavirus in-track like
That's what I'm doing. That's my beat tomorrow.
Okay.
There's some people out there on the track.
So is that what the reporting trip was about? Can you reveal what the reporting trip was about now?
No, not yet. That might be in tomorrow's episode. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's...
You did come back with a tattoo, which I thought was interesting.
Face tattoo,
yeah. And you said you had a new phone?
Yeah. I made you turn off your GPS.
You told me to message you on Signal. I didn't know what that was. Only encrypted communication.
So, yeah, I'm going to be focusing on what people think about the coronavirus tomorrow, which is set myself up for a real happy day tomorrow.
Yeah. Get all the units, like a quote from the CDC and stuff?
I haven't reached out yet. Okay. I'm sure they're not overwhelmed at all.
I think you should touch base.
Hi, track journalist here.
Touch base with your sources. I think a bunch of stuff's going to, in the next 24 hours. Like, I mean, I don't know necessarily if it's impact the D1 meet, but I think you're going to hear it with other sports. Yeah. Because of all the announcements that are coming. Mm-hmm. But we will be here to chat about it all. That's why it's good that we have a podcast every day. It seems like the news moves at that speed.
It
so
absolutely does.
super fun. Thank you for joining us again, Lincoln. Glad to have you back.
I know I'm few and far between these days.
Well, you can't leave again because that was a lot of Kevin and Gordon.
Yeah,
and
that was quite a bit.
I didn't get a chance to listen to the pod because of it, which was a bummer. I like listening to the pods.
Oh, that's true.
So I appreciate you being back. Maybe you can do an episode with Gordon so that way I can listen to you guys at 1.5.
Let's do it. Let's do it this weekend.
All right. Lincoln's on Twitter, so we got to go.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye.